Today's episode is a big one. If you've ever wondered, is this relationship actually right for me? Or can this really last? I know I hear that often. You're in the right place because I am talking with a seasoned divorce attorney who has seen it all. She spent over 20 years inside the most intimate, revealing moments of people's relationships. You know, the moments where truth is revealed and you kind of go, whoa. And she is here to share the insights that most people never hear until it's too late. And you might even have experienced this before. So, this is what we're going to dive into today. First, you're going to learn the surprising early signs she has seen over the decades that reveal whether a relationship can actually stand the test of time or actually kind of fizzle out over time. She's going to walk us through what she calls her powerful F words. Interesting. F words framework. And these are the core ingredients that every lasting relationship needs to have. And that there's actually one that can be a total deal breaker if it's missing. And then we're going to pull back the curtain on, and this is a biggie, why smart, caring people stay in the wrong relationship and how to finally trust your inner wisdom so you stop wasting time with someone who can't meet you where you are. So wherever you are, if you're dating, if you're in a relationship, or you're just questioning whether the one you're in has a real future, because it's like, should I stay? Should I go? This conversation is going to be very revealing to you. You're going to get some clarity, maybe even get some confidence and a brand new lens on love. Welcome to Sarah Intelligator. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for that introduction.
I am so stoked to dive in. I mean, my gosh, like talk about we kind of are almost a fly on the wall in all the times you've been with these people. We get to kind of go, what's going on here? What did you learn? What are you saying? What are you seeing? So with all of your 20 years, over 20 years of experience in divorce law, I'm just curious, what has it taught you about which relationships actually go the distance and which ones don't? What do you got on that?
That's a really broad question, and I
I
think if
bet it is. What do you got? Let's talk
what
for
do I
40
got?
minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I can spend 2 days talking about just that. I think that, if I'm to sort of sum it up, I think that when people come into my office, and I've been doing this for a long time, I see certain discernible patterns over and over and over again, to the point where I can look at a relationship, not people who are divorcing, but just like any relationship, and I can probably predict whether it's going to succeed or fail and why. Because even though everybody's relationships are obviously unique and they themselves are unique people, human behavior is very similar, and similar neuroses and personality types and things attract to one another. And so it's very easy to sort of, once you've seen it so many times, and it becomes a pattern that's just so obvious to me, like almost like I have a crystal ball. That would be cool if I did,
Okay.
but I know.
Yeah, don't we all wish? I
Right.
say that often. It's like if I only had the crystal ball, and yet you sort of do. I mean, that's the thing. You don't have it in the realm of let me let me predict the future. And at the
Yeah.
same time, you're seeing these kinds of patterns over and over, and you're also seeing what happens with these patterns. Can you share some of those patterns of, boy, this does not look good?
Yes. So you sort of teased it. You kind of mentioned those F words. I don't want to
Yes.
dive into them prematurely, but those F words sort of to me, encapsulate and summarize the patterns. I tried to distill them down into really easy, memorable categories so people could
Mm.
think about them and reflect upon them in their dating journey. So I can get into those obviously if you'd like to get into those, but I think that that's a good starting point in terms of the patterns.
Okay, so let's maybe put a pin in that for a moment
Sure.
with the patterns. And so the broad question of what have you actually have seen when it comes to relationships lasting? So let me just ask you the patterns because I don't know the patterns. You're not the patterns, but the F words and the patterns
Yeah.
that go with them.
Yeah.
Are all those negative or are they positive or are they a mixture of predicting what is going to happen?
That's a really good question because there's sort of a little bit of both. So I'll just
Okay.
give you an example. I know we'll dive into them more later, but like for
Yeah.
example, one of the F words is fundamental values, and that's the first one. And we can get into it more. But in terms of is it positive or negative? Well, if you do not share fundamental values with your partner, the relationship will fail. So, in that sense, it's a negative, but it's also a positive because it's a reminder that when you are dating somebody or looking for a lifetime partner, and a meaningful relationship that's going to hopefully last the test of time, that you are looking for somebody who shares similar fundamental values, or the more fundamental values you share with this person, obviously, the more you're going to seek to navigate life in a similar way. So, in that regard, they can both be positive and negative. They're like what not to do, but then also what to do, by kind of, I sort of, and I talk about this quite extensively in my book, Live, Laugh, Find True Love, that I reverse engineer where relationships go wrong to show people how to do it right. Don't make the
Ooh,
mistakes these people made. And I made myself. I've been divorced. So this is not like I'm not
me
casting
too. Yeah.
aspersions. I'm not,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not judging anyone. I've made these mistakes too. And so that was also a powerful self-reflection tool that like, oh yes, I made these exact same mistakes, these same patterns in my own relationship. So that is kind of, I think it's sort of a little bit of both.
Thank you for that. Let's dive into the values since you mentioned the values. The fundamental values. A lot of people do say, they need to meet my values. And I know when I work with my clients that are looking to go back out there and find their special someone, that there are a lot of layers to values. And there are the umbrellas, if you will. There's spirituality and religion value. There's the money value. There's the how to do family value. Like there are certain things that we can call values. And then there are some people that say, well, I value humor. I value honesty and loyalty. So I'm curious when you're talking about the fundamental values, what are you talking about?
I think that's spot on. Ding, ding, ding. Those are the values. There's some of them. Um, One thing that I think is really important that I think we don't necessarily really consider so much before we start dating intentionally, we sort of meander through dating without intention. And I think it's really
Yes.
important to have intention. Like if you
Hmm.
know your why, you will figure out your how, sort of thing. And so, I think that what we don't do is we don't take the time to identify our own fundamental values. Like, not
Yes.
just what we value on a superficial level, like, oh, I love music, I love yoga. Those are superficial things. But core values that are such an intrinsic part of who you are that they almost define you, and they have almost defined you for the entirety of your life and likely will for the remainder of your life. Like if spirituality or religion is something that is just so important and it's so integral to who you are, that is a fundamental value. So people need to first identify their fundamental values, okay? Because then they can go into the dating process with an intention of finding someone who shares those fundamental values, ascertaining through the dating process and the courtship process whether the partner shares those fundamental values. Because no matter what, whether this person is the most attractive person you've ever seen, you have the best conversations, you can't stop talking, you're talking till 2 in the morning. It doesn't matter because that is not enough to sustain you over the course of a lifetime. If you share fundamental values, you're going to seek to navigate life in a similar way. You're going to have similar goals. If you decide to have children, you're going to want to raise children in a similar way. And if those fundamental values are not there, then you're actually going to butt heads over a lot of these things. And it's going to create dissonance in the relationship and ultimately potentially a divorce. So that's why it's so important that you not only know your own, but that you are making sure that this person, like you put aside your lust, your little butterflies in your stomach, all of these
Yeah.
things, these flutters that you're getting
And they're
all over.
fun and it's wonderful and it's exciting and that feeling of, "Oh, I can't wait to see them." Yes,
Right. Yes.
and, and.
But like you almost have to just step outside of your body for a second. You have to let your intelligence, your intellect step outside and say, "All this is cool. There's my body. It's having tingly sensations everywhere. It's very
Yeah.
excited. And now I'm the intelligent portion of that body. And I'm looking at this very critically."
We have to. Yeah, and it's one of the biggest mistakes I see that women make and men as well. They go out there too quickly without having that clear north star of what is their intention, what is it they're wanting to create in their partnership, and what are the most important ingredients to have, and they keep it way too superficial. And a lot of times people hang their hats on that chemistry, and chemistry can grow, especially if you have the
Yes,
values
exactly.
connecting.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes.
And one of the things I just also want to say, because like I said, this is something so huge that I see people making the mistake of not having that clarity, is even if you're on different pages, you could still have those shared values. And as an example, my partner and I, we voted differently. And that is a hot friggin' topic right now.
Wow.
We know that it's a hot
Wow.
friggin' topic. And this was before we got together. And I was like, I think he's going to vote differently than me. I think he sees this. Thank you for to both of us that we see things differently. And so I had to really sit with it because I was staying in the superficial and the stories of how could he go in that direction? Doesn't he know? Doesn't he see?
Mhm.
I was on my high horse.
Yeah.
And then I dropped in and I was like, I need to know his values. What first I needed to understand why the direction. And then I needed to go, well, what do you think about this piece? What do you think about this piece? I needed to really get a temperature check on the important things that I deeply value. And ultimately, we were on the same page.
Mhm.
Yes, we went in different directions. Do I like it? No, I don't. Were there moments, many moments where I was like, oh, I really wish I could talk about what I just learned and have him go, oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to
Right.
get that. So I go there and say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing. What are you thinking, seeing, feeling? And we have created, obviously, a very safe place to talk about anything. And just to underline that piece of knowing, deeply knowing what is most important for you in the
Mhm.
value system,
Mhm.
and do they match it? With that said, be careful because there are so many layers down. I could have been like, yeah, he thinks differently than me. Well, he does. He knew some things that I didn't know. And we needed to have that deeper conversation to go, oh, wait a second. He really is on the same page as me.
And sometimes, and I talk about this a lot also in my book, is that something that might seem like it's a value isn't really a value. Sometimes there's something underlying what is seemingly a value, and that's actually the value. So, like, I use the example of travel, right? When you're in your 20s and you travel with reckless abandon, and you think traveling is your fundamental value. But in reality, then you have children, you settle down, you can't travel the world like you once did. You have a job, you have responsibilities. So, is it truly that travel was the fundamental value, or is it this underlying sense of adventure? Is adventure
Boom.
really the thing
Yes.
promulgating that? Like, are you just an adventurous person who likes to have new experiences and things like, and that might probably be it, unless you're the kind of person who is nomadic and sells off all worldly possessions and never wants to have children or settle down, and they travel the world for their entire lives. Well, then that's a fundamental value. And I think in your case, when you talk about politics, for some people, politics is a fundamental value and their political ideations are a fundamental value. Like they are
Right.
aligned with that. But for you, it's not necessarily that so much, it seems, as the issues that are attached to your political beliefs and ideations. And so if you can come to terms with the fact that you like reconcile that the fundamental values are similar actually in, and you're just choosing different paths for that, then I think that is a great example where, politics are not necessarily the fundamental value.
So well said, and I love what you did with the travel because that's literally what I do with my
Hmm.
clients. It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
great, you love to travel. Well, what is it about traveling? What is it that you value? What is it you're getting from it?" And then drilling down into all those things because we don't not we, but maybe this person doesn't need to travel to have that adventure. Maybe it's that spur of the moment, "Hey, let's all jump in the car and go to a place we've never been before." So, these are the things that we need to tweeze apart. Everybody needs to tweeze apart to get to that really core, what is it that I must have to feel that happiness, fulfillment, and deep connection with that person so it's a fit. Let's move on to F words framework. Sound good?
Yeah, it's is a good transition actually. Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I've been doing this
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know the framework and maybe explain why each one matters and what you see in reference to lasting or not lasting.
Okay, so we've definitely covered fundamental values. And the thing is about the F words, I don't list them in any particular order because I think they're all equally important, but
Mhm.
fundamental value do list first intentionally because I think that without it you cannot go to the next step. So with regard to the rest of the F words that I'm going to address, they're just really not in any particular order. Um the next one is fear, and that I want to talk about because I think it's probably one of the biggest reasons that relationships fail. I think fear can manifest itself in many different ways. Fear can be, oh, I'm getting older. My biological clock is ticking. This might not be the right person, but what if I don't find someone else and I really need to have children? Otherwise, I won't be able to have them. So this person's good enough. Or, what if I never find someone better? Like self-doubt, not having enough self-esteem to know that to value yourself, to know that you deserve the best, and not to just settle. So, like, fear kind of does all these really weird things to us that makes us settle for relationships that deep down, intuitively, we know are wrong. Our gut is so right always.
Our gut
And
is so right.
we don't listen to it. And I kind of one of the things that I noted in my book when I talk about fear, because I not only want to point out how powerful fear is, but I sort of want to give people tools to work through that and to figure out how to transcend it so that they don't end
Nice.
up in relationships because they're afraid to leave them. And one of the things that I point out is that fear is something that is meant to keep us safe in the moment. So when for our entire lives, fear protects us. A stove is hot. Fear tells us, no, 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 don't touch that. You're going to hurt yourself. And we're like, thank you, fear. And then we don't hurt ourselves. And fear has just protected us. It's our protector in that moment.
Mhm.
We're not going to jump into the ocean if we see sharks swimming around. Fear says, don't do that. You're going to get bit. Right. So we say, oh, thank you, fear. That's great. I didn't get bit. I'm safe now because of you, fear. So we learn to trust fear. It becomes a very comforting protector. And then our intuition, which is sort of like our Jiminy Cricket, is sort of thinking about us more in the long term. It's it's more intelligent. It's not protecting us in the instant moment. It's sort of protecting us, into the future and thinking about the future and all of these things. And it's almost like the devil and the angel on the shoulders in the cartoon, that psychomachia. You have those two voices. And we listen to fear because we know it keeps us safe. But if you remember that fear is not worried about keeping you safe in the future, fear is only worried about keeping you safe right now. We have to sort of tell fear, thank you, but shush, I'm going to listen to my intuition and my gut and my intelligence, because that is really kind of thinking on a much bigger scale in a much more intelligent way.
Mm,
So that's sort of one of the ways that I hope helps people reconcile it, but they have to identify that they are afraid and why they're afraid. They have to articulate those things to themselves and be honest with themselves. And I think a lot of people aren't, because it's easier not to be. And the one thing I remind
yeah.
people is that it's difficult to end a relationship. It's scary to end a relationship. It's probably one of the ickiest feelings to go through a breakup. But you know
Yeah.
what's ickier and scarier and way worse? A divorce, especially once you have children and when you're dividing your assets and your life savings and you don't know where you're going to live or what you're going to do. And it's earth shattering. That is a lot scarier. And fear isn't worried about that. It's worried about how you're going to feel right now.
Right
So
now.
think
Yeah.
about that, because
Mm.
no matter how bad the breakup is going to be right now, the divorce is going to be 10 times worse later on down.
So interesting your perspective. It really overlaps with the work that I do, and I call the part your risk manager. This part that is creating the fear so that you don't make the move, so you don't get hurt right now. With my work, and I'm curious about this with how you kind of discern the two, the now and the future. I find that people are also having that risk manager, AKA fear, saying, don't do this because the last time you did this, you lost yourself, you got betrayed, somebody died, it was horrible, all the things. And in some way that protector is saying this might happen again in the future. So I'm just wondering, can you tweeze that apart with the model that you're talking about around the now and the future? The fear is only focused on now, and yet there can be the fear of, ooh, what might happen in the future, which keeps people stuck in the situations that they're in.
Sure. I think that that is sort of part and parcel still of fear keeping you safe in the moment, because even though fear is talking about future things, drawing on past experiences to scare you, it's still to keep you from breaking up with someone in that moment. So it's really trying to protect you from a momentary pain, even if it's using the future as an enticement to stay in your situation and not do the scary thing.
I got it. I got it. And we're really more talking about the people that are in the relationship, potentially moving to the divorce, which is your wheelhouse. And I'm typically working with people that may not move forward in opening to a relationship because they're
Yeah.
afraid that the past is going to show up in the future. So
Yeah.
there's nuances
Well,
here. Yeah.
but I'm still talking about people who are not necessarily in a relationship. They're just dating maybe, or they're in a relationship contemplating marriage, not like
Okay.
actually in. Yeah, that I think it also plays out in pulling the plug on an existing marriage, but I'm more referencing I'm in a relationship, things are going fine. I could probably do better, but like I'm content. I have someone there if I want to go see a movie, I want to go to dinner, whatever.
Right.
It's
The upside.
easy.
Yeah.
Right. And if I end this, I'm going to be alone. Or alternatively, I went on a date with someone, I went on a few dates. We don't share fundamental values. I've already identified that, but I'm going to keep going, because what if I don't find someone else who is such a great conversationalist? Or what if I don't find someone else who has such a great sense of humor, cool taste in music, or whatever it might be, that you're afraid of, that talks you into staying in a situation that you intuitively know you should not, or
Got it.
intellectually know you should not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nuances here, but I hear what you're saying. It's like right here, right now. This is what I know. This is this is I'm going to avoid that pain because right here, this is good enough. This is
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
but not necessarily listening to, yeah, this is not fine. This is really not a good fit. This is not
Yeah.
what I want. And
Yeah.
being able to really listen to that part. And I also just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for your input, Fear. Thank you for wanting to keep me safe. And there's another piece here we need to explore. So I love that
Yeah.
you're bringing that
Yeah.
part in.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the third F word?
Okay. Yeah. So all these dirty F words. So the next
Ooh.
F word is foundation. And
Mm,
I liken foundation to the foundation of a house. If your house, so the foundation of a house supports the structure of the building. And if the foundation is faulty, then the house topples or it starts to slope or slide. And I break foundation down into what I call 5 pillars, and they're the pillars of the foundation that support the relationship. And they are respect, communication, teamwork, honesty, and trust. And I think they're pretty self-explanatory and
I was just gonna say
obvious,
they're
but
pretty self-explanatory. It's like you break a trust, you don't have respect, like, not
yeah,
good.
yeah, and they all
Cracks in the
sort of
foundation.
yeah, and they all sort of they can sort of affect each other. So like if for instance, if you're not honest with someone, the trust is broken. If the trust is broken, the respect is broken. If you don't communicate effectively or you communicate disrespectfully, then that might affect the trust or the teamwork. So all of these things sort of there's like an interplay between them, but ultimately they each one is a standalone pillar. And the one interesting thing about foundation that I think I need to note is that unlike all of the other F words, foundation is the one thing that needs to be there when you're dating before you commit to a relationship long term. But it's one of those things that you need to continue to work out on throughout the relationship for the lifespan of the relationship, because at any point these pillars can get dinged, knocked down, broken, cracked, and they can be repaired for the most part unless you're at the point of resentment where they're irreparable. But foundation is different from all of the others because it sort of continues even after you've gotten married or the relationship is going on into the future.
So clear, so great, absolutely important, wonderful. Next one.
Yes. Next one. So the next one's fairy tale. And fairy
Fairy
tale,
tale.
fairy
I'm
tale,
like, "Oh,
yeah.
yeah, right, F, fairy tale."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, there's a T in there too, but fairy tale is sort of this notion that that the marriage, that like the wedding day, the proposal, all of these things are the most important thing in the world. Um, and if your goal is to get married, then the way that you achieve that goal will be by dating and by being with anyone who will marry you, right? If that's the end
If
goal.
that's the goal, yeah.
And that is bad. Just plainly put,
Yes,
that is bad
yes, because there's
because
other things to
there
consider.
yes. So the fact that someone will marry you should not be the end goal. It also speaks to like, do you value yourself enough? But I think that people just place way too much emphasis on the wedding, the marriage. Oh my God, somebody wants me badly enough that they're willing to propose to me. They're actually willing to want to spend their life with me. Well, yeah, you should value yourself enough to think that many people would want to spend their lives with you. But and if your goal is to find a teammate with whom you respectfully communicate, you have a trusting and honest and open relationship, you share fundamental values, all of these things are present, and that your goal is to find that, then the wedding is really just a celebration of that as opposed to the destination. Because the
100%.
reality is, you're going to wake up after your wedding day, and if that's the best day of your life, it's only downhill from there. That's a really, you
It's
know,
so true, oh my god, and that's sadly, that's how people do their life in general. It's like, "I need to achieve this thing," and then they're like, "Oh, now what?" Versus having the quality, the substance, the joy now, and then having these other things show up
yeah.
that they wanna manifest.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people also create unrealistic expectations around it. I think they think that having a baby is also this like they romanticize it in many ways,
Yeah, yeah.
and like it's like what color's the nursery going to be? What are and there's nothing wrong with that,
No.
but but that's like the least important part of having a baby. Like
Yes.
and having children is it takes teamwork. It's a partnership. It tests relationships. If a relationship is not strong, it's not that children ruin relationships, it's that children ruin bad relationships because they
Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta
no,
jump in.
go
It's like
ahead.
that's
Yeah.
something I've said over and over. It's like if and I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for my kid, whether I'd be married or not still. But what I used to say is if we didn't have my kid, I might still be with my husband, but my kid revealed the cracks. My kid revealed things that I wasn't able to see before he was there. I was like, wow, there are
Right.
some fundamental challenges we have. And boy, it was hard. Yes, harder with him, but it was because all of those flaws, all of those
Mhm.
challenges existed before the kid.
Exactly, and I always say that, like, children shine an inescapable spotlight on the
Mm,
flaws in the relationship, because if you want to raise your child in a similar if you don't want to raise your child in a similar way because you don't share fundamental values, well, that might the fundamental values, that might not even become an issue until you have a child, and then you're how do we raise this child? Well, that's going to definitely come out at that point.
be a little
Um,
bumpy.
yeah, if you don't work well as a team or you don't communicate well, your foundation is not intact. That's
Mm,
going to come out. And these are things that, when you're backpacking through Europe when you're 25, well, they might not reveal themselves, but that's why it's also so important to approach the relationship critically, thinking about all of these things. I mean, if you're never going to have children, that's fine. You should still be thinking about these things. But in particular, if you are, these are things that are like completely indispensable to the relationship. It's not going to work out. And there's this interesting statistic that in the United States, majority or the average, what is it? The average length of time before a married couple has a child is 3 years. And then, most people have their second child, a couple years later. And then the average length of a marriage in the United States is 7 years. So why do you think that is? Whether it
yeah.
was just they had one child and then they were trying to hold it together, or they had one and then they had another and then they couldn't hold it together. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that it's like on the heel, they're trying to work things out and they just can't because the child is revealing the cracks, as you said.
Well, I will just say that I was with my husband for 6 years before we had the kid, and it still was that. So,
Yeah.
yes, and baby, yes.
Yes,
I just
yes.
wasn't seeing it, but I was also really young. There's so many pieces, but I love how you're presenting this. We have one more, right? One more F?
We have 2, but,
Oh,
I know
I've lost
it's
track.
easy to lose count because 'cause we're going on
Oh,
such
wait, how
down a
many are
rabbit hole.
there?
6.
All right, I thought there were 5.
Oh,
Okay, my math
well, that
my
that
math is
explains it.
correct. Let's hop into
Yes.
number 5.
Okay, so, fixing is another one, and fixing, just like it sounds, but it's sort of a two-parter. So, it's not only you cannot fix your partner. Like, you cannot go into a relationship thinking you're going to fix or change this person
Dating a
because
potential, I say. Do not date a potential. Can you
yes.
be fine and happy and thrilled with what is here? Maybe it'll change. Do not date a potential. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. This is your life partner and teammate, not a project.
Hmm.
You don't go
Yeah.
and,
And who
you
wants to
know,
be fixed? We want to be accepted and loved
yes.
for who we are.
Yes. Yes. So for so many reasons, I don't need to really elaborate on it. It's obvious, but you're not going to change. And the one thing is that when people start in down a new relationship, everyone's trying to put their best foot forward, they're peacocking, whatever they're doing. And as people get comfortable, they're less inclined to try to impress. So what makes you think that as somebody gets more comfortable that they are going to suddenly want to change who they are for you? And the one thing that this really shows up in women for some reason specifically, like for instance, a guy will be a commitment phobe. Like he's never committed to anyone. He has like a fear of commitment, but the woman thinks, I'm going to be the one.
If he really
I'm going to
loves
be
me
the one.
enough and it's so good, he will change his ways.
It's like she is the one who is going to get him to commit. It is a
Yeah.
challenge for her and she is insecure and she's the one who's going to
Yeah.
do it. And I've got news for you ladies, you're not going to be the one. It's not you, it's him. He's not a project. If he's not willing to commit and he has commitment
Yeah.
issues, on to the next. Let's not
Yeah.
waste our time here. So that is
So
one
well
part of
said.
fixing. I'm just going to tell you how it is. The other part of fixing is fixing yourself. We all have issues. We all have, our past experiences, our traumas that we bring into the relationship with us. I'm not talking about that. That's part of what makes us unique. We all have our sensitivities. This is who we are. I'm talking about you have such severe issues for whatever reason, that psychological issues, past traumas, mission experiences, that they almost dictate who you are selecting and the reason you are in a relationship and the way you are in a relationship. The example I love to use is the guy whose mom doesn't speak to him. And she has basically, she stopped speaking to him. He would love to have a relationship with her, but she's just essentially,
Mm.
left him. And he now has abandonment issues. And not only abandonment issues, he feels unlovable and he wants the love of his mother to make him feel whole. So what does
Mhm.
he do? He seeks out a partner who's very maternal, maybe an older woman even, and she fills that void. Well, what is going to happen here? Number one, this woman is, at first, she might actually be the type of person who needs to fix people. She might have this broken wing syndrome and feel like she needs to be a mother to this guy. So this is a great connection at first. It's very powerful for both of them. But
Yeah.
ultimately, at the end of the day, she's going to get annoyed being his mommy.
Yep.
He's not going to want to have any sort of sexual relationship with her because he does not want to have sex with his mother.
Mom.
um, you know, it's not going to be fulfilling for him because he didn't choose the relationship. His
Yeah.
trauma chose the relationship for him.
Exactly.
So, what does he need to do? He needs to work on that and his abandonment issues and address them and understand where they came from. And it doesn't mean he's not going to still have them or feel those things. It means that by acknowledging them and understanding them, then he's going to seek a partner who shares fundamental values and a good foundation as opposed to seeking a mommy. So fix
Right.
yourself before you go into your relationship. Your relationship is not it's not an avenue for addressing your issues. It's not therapy. Your partner can be supportive and help you
Look,
grow.
being in a
Yeah.
healthy relationship, being with a strong foundation and a container that can hold some of the stuff that happens, there is growth, there is change. We just don't want to go into it so broken, so challenged, so full of our trauma. Because that's one of the things I just need to speak to. A lot of people go, I still need to work on this issue. I still need to work on this issue. Yes. And sometimes there's layers of that issue, and sometimes people don't move forward. It's one of the things that people come to me and they're like, help me with my dating profile and help me with, which app to be on. It's like, I can do that. I definitely am a dating expert at this point, but I will not go there until
Yeah.
we look at, what are you bringing to the table? What are you hoping to fix or change or heal in that relationship? Because it's going to be volatile. It's going to be painful. And maybe you'll move forward in that relationship with that issue, but clean it up a bit, do the
Yeah.
healing work,
Yeah.
get really that shift so that you can really see the right person, the better person, maybe not the perfect person, but the person that can really meet you in the most important ways. So it's
Yeah.
safe
Like,
and you're not with mommy or daddy.
If you enter into a relationship as health in a healthy way, then you will be in a healthy relationship. If you enter into a
100%.
relationship in an unhealthy way, you're going to find an unhealthy relationship. So that's just it's very
Yeah.
simple.
Yep. Right there with you. Speaking my language.
Yeah.
Okay. We have one more.
Drum roll. Last
Dun,
one.
dun, 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 dun.
Thank you for that. So the last one is family. And originally it was 5 F words. And then I ultimately at the end decided to add in family because I
I
had this
gotta say,
one
wait, like 5 does have an F,
five
and
F. I
that would
know.
have been very nice. With
It would
that
have been.
said, family is important, so go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. What made me think of it was I had this one case where my client was just absolutely lovely, and the family was from England, and they were very classist, and the wife's family was very classist, and they were very wealthy and high class, and this guy, no matter how nice he was low class to them. How could their daughter marry him? And they interfered in literally every aspect of the relationship. I've obviously seen this many times. It wouldn't be a
Of
pattern
course,
or an F
yeah.
word if I hadn't seen it. But it was almost like around the time that I was writing about this, and it was so egregious that I was like, no, 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 this has to go in there. So family can affect relationships in many ways. Number one is somebody close to his or her family? If so, The reality is that family is going to become your family. They are going to be part of your lives. If you do not like them and they do not like you and you do not get along, then that is going to put so much strain on the relationship. Your spouse or your partner is going to be forced to constantly straddle, or maybe but
Yeah.
constantly straddling between the loyalty to the partner and the loyalty to the family, and it's going to put a tremendous strain on the relationship because you can't
Yeah.
really ultimately choose, right? Who you're loyal to. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
If somebody is not speaking to his or her family, it's a puzzle piece. It's one of the things that when we're dating, we're looking at all of the puzzle pieces because we're trying to piece together this puzzle and figure out who this person is, if they're right for
Yeah.
us. And so the family is just, it's a pretty big puzzle piece because that can reveal to us, well, is this person not speaking to his or her family because this person did something bad? Is the family bad? And what does that say about how this person was brought up? What issues he or she might have? Has he or she addressed those issues before
Mhm.
getting into this relationship? So it's just a revealing glance into what this person's upbringing and background and childhood and life were about,
Mhm.
because like, for example, if someone, this is just a cliche thing, if someone's in an abuse, like abused as a child, they typically grow up to, and not typically, I shouldn't say that, but they can often grow up to be abusers themselves because that's how they understand love. And so that's how they show love. And it's a lot more complicated than that. So, like, things like this are just like little clues that we should be looking to. And so, family plays a much bigger role than we give it credit for. And I think a lot of people discount family. Like, I don't get along with his parents, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. We're never going to see them, or we're going to see them at Christmas. But it's going to become problematic. It
Yeah.
is.
It makes so much sense. It's kind of a no-brainer, but people don't think like this, and then they go,
Mhm.
"Oh, how could I have missed this?" And that's why I really value, uh, everything you're sharing 'cause this
Thank
is
you.
the roadmap for how
Yeah.
to date well, how to pick well, and how to navigate these waters. Because if you don't really know these things, it can get murky. One of the things you had shared was that there's one F word that becomes a complete deal breaker if it's missing. Which one is that, and why? Did you cover that?
Yes. Fundamental values.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
'Cause and that's where I start with my clients too. I mean, obviously, we need to work on the bag of shadows and trauma and all the crap they've picked up along the way, but the picker comes from that, there's no
Yeah.
doubt about it. Beautiful. We only have a few more minutes, but I think it's important to talk about why people stay, and is there and I know you've shared already about it. It's like that fear thing, what might happen right now, this is good enough. Is there anything else that you wanna add to why people stay or why they stay longer than they should when it's painful, or is it really straight out the fear?
I think fear is probably the biggest reason, but I think it's so
Yeah.
much more complicated and nuanced than that. And I think it sort of depends whether we're talking about in the context of a divorce, like if we're in a relationship and, we're
Yeah.
contemplating a divorce, versus we're just in a relationship and we want to break up with someone because we don't want to take it to the next step, which is,
Mhm.
a committed lifelong relationship.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if there's one that you want me to address specifically, or
No, no, I
both,
just wanted
or
to make sure we addressed it because I definitely said it in the beginning that we were gonna cover it, and I kind of
yeah,
feel like we did. It's like,
yeah,
why do we stay longer? Why do we choose the way we choose or not
yeah.
choose? I mean, most of the time there's a price that we think we're gonna pay, and that fear
Mhm.
part, it's going, "Don't do it."
Fear is sort of the umbrella, because I think that even if we're talking about a marriage that is potentially headed for divorce, I think fear is still, it's a different type of fear, and it's fear for different reasons. Not like, oh,
Mhm.
I'll never meet anyone again, but more like, how am I going to survive if I leave this marriage? Or, what's going to happen to me? Or what's going to happen to my children? Whatever it might be.
All the
Um,
stuff.
but it's
Yeah.
still fear, right? So it's still under the umbrella
Yeah.
of fear.
Well, I've loved this conversation, and I know people are probably gonna wanna know where to find you and where to
Yeah.
find your book. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So my Instagram is the best place to find me. It's sarah.a.intelligator.esq, which is a mouthful, but I'm sure you'll put
It
in the
will
show
be
notes.
in the show notes.
Yes.
Did you get that, everybody?
Yeah,
Dot, dot.
I hope you took notes. Um, they can also find me at my website, which is lafamilylawpractice.com. And they can
Nice.
find my, yes, I scored that one long time ago.
Yeah.
And they can find my book, which is called Live, Laugh, Find True Love at Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Sounds beautiful. This was great. Great, great, great. So many important pieces to finding and keeping long lasting love. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Hope you took some notes. Think about somebody who might need to hear this, maybe a friend or somebody that's dating or maybe in a relationship that isn't working. Think about the people in your life that can benefit from this episode and be sure to like and subscribe. And until we meet again,
One more thing
mwah.
before you go. Have you taken my Discover Your Love Avatar quiz? It's a 2-minute quiz that can help you not only know your strengths, your superpower because you have one, also identify some of your blind spots, some of the things that might be having you in your fear, having you behaving in ways that aren't in alignment with your highest self, the way you want to be when it comes to dating and relationships. And it'll also help you discover why maybe the stars haven't lined up for you yet. Bottom line is, you take this 2-minute quiz, you get a full report in your email with details on how to move forward in next level love, whether you want a partner or not. So you can go to midlifeloveoutloud.com/love quiz. The link is in the show notes as well. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the station, I'm going to encourage you to do that too, so you don't miss any episodes. And I hope you got a ton out of today's. See you next week. Mwah.